It's amazing to remember how as recently as the late 80s, there were educators questioning whether computers would play relevant roles in education. Since then, of course, ever-evolving communications technology has revolutionized every aspect of learning and of growing up. A school, not to mention the rest of the world, without technology, our students find the concept as alien as a classroom with inkwells, heated by a wood stove. Sadly, though, in exploring the full impact of technology, we must revisit an old problem teachers struggled with in those days of inkwells and wood stoves: bullying. We live in a time when face-to-face schoolyard bullying continues, and when it has also morphed into round-the-clock cyberbullying. What's more, the ease and anonymity of communications technology may lure some young people into perpetrating bullying behavior before they're even conscious of it. I want you to see some interviews where educators, students, and communications professionals discuss some disturbing trends. But let me assure you that we'll move on to something more positive, the concept of digital citizenship. The same technology that makes cyberbullying and sexting possible can be a way of reassessing what it means to be a good citizen and of building a healthier digital world. First, though, let's take a look at bullying and why it can be especially virulent in today's world.
There is much more push to be grown up, and they're not ready. Emotionally, they're not ready. And some of them, depending on where they've come from, are in situations where they've had to be a grown-up at 8, but they're still teenagers. They're still not equipped. And so there's that dissonance, and no wonder there are bullies. They're angry, they're hurting. You know, and so my goal is that this is supposed to be the safe place.
Maybe the bullying's happening at home. Maybe. And if it's happening at home, then the young man or the young lady comes to school, and we call it mental modeling. They have been exposed to this for a long, long time. They think this is actually appropriate behavior. This is the way the system works. And so we tell all of our staff, you have to be aware that this mental modeling must change.
For those victimized by bullies, the effects can be long-term.
Increased anxiety, depression, low self-esteem. They might have more excused or unexcused absences due to some of the things that are going on in the school setting. They avoid that situation. They report more migraines and headaches. They might bully others at home due to the abuse and bullying that they're receiving from others. And then also with the bullies, they have some different things that are going on for them as well. You know, oftentimes they don't have the support that they need from individuals in their life, whether it be from home or school, and so there's some long-term effects for bullies as well.
In their book, Bullying Beyond the Schoolyard, Samir Hinjua and Justin Patchen say that too many adults still see bullying as a normal rite of passage, an inevitable and even instructive part of growing up. The authors identify 4 characteristics of bullying: intentional, aggressive, or violent, stemming from a difference in power, and repetitive. Mary Crone helps her students further define bullying this way.
There's a difference between attacking an idea and attacking a person. Attacking a person is bullying. And we're done, right then and there.
Terry Stolken reminds us that timing is everything.
Bullying must be dealt with immediately. That's why when we talk to schools, we want to talk to your bus drivers. You can't have bullying on the bus and then 2 weeks later on the bus driver's report it said Sally was bullying someone. No. If you have to stop the bus, obviously it has to be in a safe location and so on, but it has to be dealt with. If you're going through the lunch line and the cook sees Johnny's spitting your mashed potatoes. They need to stop the whole line and deal with it immediately.
If I even see a hint of that, I'll pull that student out. I'm not going to make a scene here. But I'll pull the student out and basically say, here's the deal. You can't do that, period. You can't do that. If it continues, I mean, I'll send them out, and they have the whole full disciplinary business here, write them up, and they just can't do that.
The cooks, the janitors, the paras, all of the aides, all of your certified staff, everybody has to be watching for the same thing, and they have to have the same consistent expectations. Who, what, when, and where, and when they see it, they must stop it.
When it comes to a school taking a stand against bullying, one human resource is absolutely essential.
Picture the bully in your class, and you have a picture, okay? Picture a trusted adult. You should have one. If you don't, you're in trouble, and if you don't, the school's really in trouble. And so we really emphasize when we talk to staff, are you a trusted adult? And the question then is why or why not? And I may be a trusted adult for student A, student B may not feel comfortable talking to me at all, but we have to make sure that there is a different trusted adult that kid can talk to.
Well, to be honest, if you're gonna talk to anybody, you should probably talk to like more official people, like school people or like a teacher or a security guard, or probably like even a principal, because they're the people who can deal with it and actually handle it.
Breaking the overall culture of bullying can feel daunting, but it helps to remember that individual cases are often diffused in efficient fashion when bystanders are prepared. I'd like you to meet Barbara Coloroso, author of The Bully, the Bullied, and the Bystander. Here is Barbara addressing South Dakota educators at the Systems Change Conference.
I want young people to know you can individually make a difference, and you can also pull along other kids to create a deeper circle of caring in your school, rather than swimming in a culture of mean. To teach young people to act with integrity is to also create in that school a deeply caring environment.
60% of bullying or inappropriate behaviors stops the first time if the bystanders, not me being bullied and not you being the bully, but the peer group standing around, if they say, knock it off, that's not cool at our school, and they give it no power, they don't encourage it, but they do not ignore it, they actually say, stop it. 60% of the time it stops after the first time. You have to talk to the kids.
I ask a lot of people when I was writing my book on bullying to give me examples of bullying stories. And Derek Okubo, internationally renowned for his work in conflict resolution, told me a story that happened to him 35 years ago as if it happened yesterday. He was the only Japanese American child in his grade 2 classroom in Denver, Colorado 35 years ago. His parents and grandparents had been interned during World War II, and then his father served in the Air Force in World War II. But this little boy was alone in that classroom being Japanese. He had to do a toe-heel, heel-together activity, not doing such a good job of it. His teacher walked over to him and said, "You get a U, you little yellow Jap." Can teachers bully? Absolutely. This little boy who had come to school so alive was now broken. He went out on the playground. A group of little boys, emboldened by what the teacher said and probably what they learned at home, "Go back where you came from, you little yellow Jap." But one boy, Scott Russell, 7 years old, came running over and said, "Stop that, that's mean." He said, "Derek, you don't need that, come play with me." Derek said the rage that was growing in me was cooled by a little boy willing to stand up for me. But he did it at cost, because the next day those little kids called him Jap lover, Jap lover, Jap lover. So Derek said to him, "You don't have to play with me if they're going to call you names." 7 years old, Scott Russell said, "That's their problem, not my problem." That's the kind of kid you want to have in your schools, who will act with that kind of integrity and civility and compassion.
Of course, as terrible as face-to-face bullying has always been, it can become especially vicious when technology enters the formula. Instead of being confined to the school setting and school hours, cyberbullying follows the victim home, continues all night, and doesn't break for weekends or holidays. In a digital environment with worldwide reach, it can feel like the whole world is watching.
There's a victim, and then there could be one or more different people, and they basically will just harass you on the internet. And sometimes, once in a great while, there'll be those people who can say it to your face, but other times, more times than another, they'll just basically talk about you behind your back. Or not really behind your back, but on the internet.
There is something about the digital bullying that can be much more abusive than face-to-face bullying. If you're mad and you're playing dodgeball and a kid hits you in the face with a ball and you're mad and he accidentally cusses at him, it could be aggressive, but it's gone, and even the kids will understand that it's this moment where the student was aggressive and might be able to forgive. But when you make a conscious decision to type something into a website and then it's there for everybody else to come and look, it's almost as if that dodgeball moment was replayed again and again and again, and it's gonna crush a kid.
Because of that boundary that we think is there, it's also easier to say things we don't mean, say things out of anger or resentment, or say things that are just completely inappropriate that we would never say in person. So, how do we deal with that? Ask yourself, would I say this to my friend in person?
The difference with cyberbullying is a lot of times you don't know what's happening. You know, there might be students that are being bullied and they might feel embarrassed. They may not really recognize that it's abusive.
I don't think they really understand how it happens or if they're actually doing it until it happens to them. Like, you can be doing it and you won't know until it happens to you, and then you really it opens your eyes.
It's because you're behind a screen and you're not sitting there face to face with somebody, it's so much easier to be a lot more cavalier, just, say things that you wouldn't normally say in a face-to-face conversation.
Just for you to read, it's for everybody to read. And it's still like, even though they say, oh, well, I'm sorry, or I didn't mean for it, or I didn't mean to put it that way, or let's just let it go, it doesn't fix it.
Does cyberbullying always demand action on the part of school personnel? It certainly does if they are the trusted adults to whom students turn, and if cyberbullying plays out on technology provided by the school or brought to school for learning. What's more, it doesn't take much harassment and discrimination to become a civil rights issue, in which case educators are legally bound to respond. It isn't proper or possible for schools to monitor all student digital activity, but when abusive communications are found or reported, it's hard to imagine how educators could possibly think they can remain passive. They need to follow school policy, ensure the victim's safety, show compassion for the victim, restrain the bully if necessary, and gather evidence. They should contact parents, possibly the internet service provider, and if there have been physical threats, law enforcement. As important as anything is showing compassion for the victim.
I think what hurts the most is whenever it's your own friends, or you think people are your friends, and then like you tell them things, or that's supposed to be, like just between me and you, and then it's on the internet, or they use it to hurt you.
All of us have heard of cases where cyberbullies have pushed victims into deep depression, even resulting in suicide. We need to remember, though, that there are cases where kids are handling those difficult situations well, taking smart steps.
I would just have this kid that would not leave me alone this year, actually. If I talked to any other guys, if I talked to any other girls, he would chew them out. So I was losing friends that way. So I completely did away with my Facebook for a while until it got all settled down. But he would just threaten my friends and threaten me. And so I just did away with it for a while until it calmed down.
And did all of that surprise you?
Yeah, it did, actually. I didn't think it would make my friends want to stop talking to me because of this person, but they started to. So then I went to the school and they helped me out with it, so.
How did you deal with all this?
Yep, I went to the office and went to the counselor that really helps with the bullying stuff, and he pulled the kid in and he was not able to talk to me, and he had to delete all of his social networking stuff.
She did it just right, bringing school personnel into the picture instead of trying to resolve matters herself.
It avoids future altercations, personally, face to face and stuff like that, because, you don't know what that person's capable of, what they could do, and, I tend to avoid that stuff.
The greatest risk to kids' safety, basically from age 11 to about 19, are threats and harassment from peers, either online or offline.
Responding effectively to cyberbullying involves school systems at all levels, including written policy.
Most of our acceptable use policies say you can't go there and you can't look this up. What our new policies have to say is you cannot threaten.
And most schools currently are adjusting and changing their policies so that they can discipline at school for online harassment and bullying issues. So because if it's disrupting somebody's learning opportunities, it can be disciplined at school. So make sure you're ready to follow up.
Of course, not all unacceptable content is verbal or written.
You have to think about is like the whole thing with sexting, where you're like sending pictures of yourself to people. Like, you gotta remember that that could affect a job opportunity, like anything. Like, you cannot get into some colleges.
And so everybody's kind of aware of, well, it could turn out bad like that. The thing people don't realize is, well, it always turns out bad like that, almost always.
You think it's, oh, well, it's just a picture now, but when you find out that that picture is sent to somebody else and somebody else and somebody else.
And what are you doing in that picture? Because if they tag you in that photo, yes, you can remove it later on, but, you know, who sees it before then?
I think you just don't mess with it. Like, don't do it.
You know, every employer now does serious background checks about character references and all sorts of things, and these are things that could really seriously come back to haunt you.
Here's something too few young people understand. Even if your own photos and other content are fine, what about those of your online friends? Meet a young woman who lost a scholarship opportunity in a way she never could have imagined.
They asked for my Facebook thing, and I didn't really think they would check it, but I always have made sure that I've never put like bad pictures or anything bad on my Facebook. But I got a letter in the mail about a week ago telling me that I had to be withdrawn from the thing because my Facebook was fine, but I had pictures, or I had friends with immoral pictures on their Facebook.
Seeing a lot of kids just throw up anything and everything on their social accounts or their social profiles without really thinking about, okay, who else might be looking at this?
Just be careful who your friends are on Facebook, definitely. Like, I've just added people at my school I don't even associate with or anything, and from other schools I've just met once, and it could have been on any of those. And I know like my close friends don't have bad pictures on there, so I would just say be careful and be alert.
And another really common thing is that students will accept friends because they want to just accumulate and like kind of in this competition of who has the most friends. And so they accept everyone that they possibly can and even seek out, they go to their friends list and invite all of them to be on their friends list.
And only be friends with who you are like legitimately friends with. Like, don't be friends with girls that you don't like or that don't like you, and don't be friends with like random people, because when you become friends with girls that you don't like or that don't like you, or like guys that you don't like or that they don't like you, then it just becomes one big problem because you're constantly being able to see what's going on in their life and they're able to see what's going on in your life, and something's bound to be said on the internet.
Remember, they are going to see all of the personal information you have posted, anything you post day to day, pictures, other comments that people make. And, you know, unfortunately, 1/3 of adolescents who are online on social networking sites have reported that they've experienced some type of online bullying.
One of the hardest things for young people and adults alike to understand is the potential permanency of words and images they post.
It's difficult for things online to actually completely fade away and disappear. So people don't realize a lot of times things that you write, even on Facebook or on blogs, it's fairly permanent. And a decade down the road, that still can be accessed, even though you might have simply written it in haste or in anger or in whatever. It's now a picture of your permanent image.
I'm deleting my MySpace, so it's not like anybody else can read it. It was on private anyway. But in reality, you just have to use a search network, and it pops up like nothing.
You're going to leave a footprint. And even if you don't know you are, if you have bought something on Amazon, if you search for something on Google, you are leaving a digital footprint. And what we want to do is teach kids to leave a positive footprint, not a negative footprint.
And it's not like the beach where the water can come in and wash that footprint away. It's like, imagine, you know, there's a concrete, you're drying concrete on your sidewalk, and you go and put your hand in that concrete and it dries. It's there, you know, until, you know, it's there 40 years from that point. You can still go back to that sidewalk and you see your handprint there. So That's the same way you need to think about your digital life.
Among kids, it's a shrinking minority who don't lead active digital lives. Long gone are the days when educators could naively suggest limited digital access for dealing with the issues we've discussed. Students understand the digital world is full of rich opportunity despite dangers, and most would agree this world holds answers for addressing those very dangers.
Really what we're talking about is citizenship applied to digital tools. And the rules of courtesy don't change when you're online. And teachers know courtesy, they're adults.
And taking that beyond that classroom into that virtual world of online and social networking. So not only do we respect people in person, but we respect them online.
So the teachers often say that I'm no expert. I can't teach this because I don't know. My students are more experts than I am. The students are only experts in how to do things that they like to do with those tools. The teachers are experts in citizenship and courtesy and politeness and treating others better than themselves. And they need to teach students and guide students in those things with the tools that the students are using. And teachers are smart people. They're scholars, they're lifelong learners, and they can learn how students are communicating with one another and guide students in how to do so in an adult way.
There's often very negative connotations about that technology, and what gets publicity is all the bad things that happen. But I think there are some ways that social media can be used to really address those negative things head on.
And I think if there's a way in your curriculum when it's appropriate to be able to add in role plays or conversations, students typically get pretty involved, and this is their world. Nowadays, when you're looking at kids that are in any K through 12 system, they don't know a world without this level of technology and involvement.
It's still such a new medium that it's, I hate to use this phrase, but it's still kind of like the Wild West, where a lot of the rules and the, etiquette's still being defined.
Social media is real life, and that's something that a lot of times kids may or may not connect to, is that who you are online is who you actually are, because the digital world is the real world. And so if you're putting things out there that you wouldn't say to somebody in a face-to-face conversation, that's probably not a good idea.
It is a conversation and you are contributing to it, and try to come up with something good and intelligent that people are going to like. Because if you come up with something that people like to read or find inspiring, that they're going to come back to you at some point, or you never know who might see that, from a job opportunity or just a friend opportunity, who might see you engage, behave in a certain way and think, oh, I want to be that person's friend, or I want to get to know that person.
As social media becomes more and more and more mainstream, if it's not already mainstream, that there will become kind of a different standard that people can expect to find. And there will be some hard and fast rules for how to really use social media in a way that's productive for individuals as citizens of this world, and that is productive for organizations and communities.
I think it also gives students the ability to enhance skills in terms of decision making, respecting other people's opinions and likes, even though it may be different than ours. If they choose to use it, they can also enhance their skill of being able to respond to other people's opinions in an appropriate manner.
The rules of the game on the internet need to be the same as they are in person. And if common courtesy is gone in person, then maybe that's why it's gone on the internet too. But that doesn't mean that we quit teaching common courtesy. We need to encourage them to do it on the internet as well.